Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions. The mystery of the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. On clear nights in the Chihuahuan desert of West Texas, between the town of Marfa and the Chinati Mountains, lights appear in the darkness. They hover above the desert floor, split and merge, change color, and vanish. Sometimes they move at extraordinary speeds across the landscape. Sometimes they stay stationary for hours. They have been reported continuously since at least 1883, when a rancher named Robert Ellison first documented them while driving cattle through the area. The local Apache people reportedly told early settlers that the lights had been there as long as anyone could remember. The United States military investigated them during World War II, when Marfa was the site of an airbase, and concluded they were not Japanese aircraft. Geologists, meteorologists, atmospheric physicists, and UFO researchers have studied them for decades. No one has produced an explanation that accounts for all of the observed phenomena. The Marfa Lights are not a simple anecdotal mystery. They have been photographed, filmed, and observed by thousands of people, including trained scientists and military personnel. The Texas Department of Transportation has built a designated viewing area on U.S. Highway 67 east of Marfa, specifically to allow people to watch them safely, a remarkable state acknowledgement of a phenomenon that cannot be explained. Documentary films have been made about them. Academic papers have been published about them, and the lights keep appearing, behaving in ways that documented atmospheric and geophysical phenomena cannot fully account for. The explanations that have been proposed range from the mundane to the exotic: car headlights on a distant highway, atmospheric refraction of distant light sources, ball lightning, or plasma formations from piezoelectric stress on geological faults, bioluminescence from desert organisms, or something that doesn't fit any of these categories, a phenomenon that the desert has been producing for centuries before there were cars or electrical lights, a phenomenon that the Apache knew and the ranchers feared and the scientists have not yet satisfactorily explained. The Marfa Lights are perhaps the best documented persistent anomalous light phenomenon on Earth. The question of what produces them is genuinely open. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we go further, if you are finding this investigation compelling, please take a moment right now to like this video, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and share it with someone who loves a good historical mystery. If you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. If you found us through Facebook, tap follow on our page. It takes just a few seconds, and it genuinely helps us keep making these documentaries. Now, let us get back to the investigation. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The 20th and 21st centuries were supposed to be the age of answers. Science had decoded DNA, split the atom, put humans on the moon, and mapped the genome. By the logic of accelerating discovery, every mystery should be converging toward explanation. And yet the ledger of genuinely unexplained phenomena, events witnessed by credible observers, investigated by serious researchers, and still lacking a satisfying account, has not shrunk. If anything, it has grown. Part of this is a failure of classification. Phenomena that do not fit established categories tend to be dismissed rather than investigated, filed under anecdotal or mass hysteria, and removed from serious consideration. This is not always wrong. Genuine hoaxes and misperceptions account for a large portion of anomalous reports, but the dismissal is sometimes premature and the cost is real. Cases that might have yielded genuine insight are closed before they are fully examined. Witnesses are discredited. Evidence is lost. The question is never properly asked. The cases that endure, that survive rigorous scrutiny, and still refuse to yield to conventional explanation, are a small but significant set. They share certain characteristics: multiple independent witnesses, physical evidence consistent with witness testimony, and a complete absence of any plausible prosaic explanation that accounts for all the data. These are not ghost stories. They are open problems in empirical science, waiting for someone with the right tools and the intellectual courage to take them seriously. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The earliest documented written account of the Marfa Lights is from rancher Robert Ellison's 1883 account of seeing mysterious lights while driving cattle through Paisano Pass. Ellison initially feared they were Apache campfires, but investigation found no evidence of camps. The lights have been reported continuously in the historical record from the 1880s onward, with particularly detailed accounts from the early 20th century when the area was being settled. The consistency of historical descriptions across 140 years, hovering, dancing, splitting, merging, color-changing lights, is notable given that the phenomenon predates most proposed mundane explanations: cars, electrical lights. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen. Instruments malfunction. Researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the Marfa Lights viewing area, established by the Texas Department of Transportation on U.S. Highway 67, approximately 9 miles east of Marfa, receives an estimated 100,000 visitors per year and is one of the most visited roadside attractions in Texas. The viewing area provides explanatory signage, a covered observation platform, and binoculars for public use. The state's investment in infrastructure for the lights represents an official acknowledgement that the phenomenon is real and persistent enough to constitute a significant public interest, while carefully refraining from any official position on what the lights are. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Scientific investigations of the Marfa Lights include a 2004 study by atmospheric physicist James Bunnell, who spent 15 years photographing and analyzing the lights using multiple synchronized cameras, published as Hunting Marfa Lights in 2009. Bunnell documented 37 instances of what he called mystery lights, lights that could not be attributed to car headlights or other known sources, over his study period. His analysis found that the mystery lights tended to appear during periods of high atmospheric electric field strength and showed behaviors, including rapid acceleration and complex multi-light interactions, inconsistent with any simple atmospheric explanation. This is where the conventional account begins to straw. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the most popular mundane explanation that the Marfa Lights are car headlights from US Highway 67 or Highway 90 refracted by atmospheric conditions, was tested systematically by a group of physics students from the University of Texas at Dallas in 2008. Their study found that on nights when the Marfa Lights were reported, distant car headlights on Highway 67 could sometimes be observed from the viewing area under specific atmospheric conditions. However, critics of this explanation note that the lights were documented long before the highways existed, that some observed behaviors, splitting, merging, hovering at low altitude, are not consistent with refracted headlight images, and that lights are frequently observed on nights when no vehicles are on the distant highways. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the geology of the Trans-Pecos region around Marfa is characterized by extensive fault systems and volcanic features associated with the Rio Grande Rift, a zone of crustal extension where the North American plate is being pulled apart. Piezoelectric stress effects on quartz-bearing rocks in fault zones can generate electrical discharges that produce light phenomena. This is the earthquake light model, documented at several other geological locations worldwide. The Marfa area's active fault geology makes this a plausible contributing mechanism. The Chinati Hot Springs area, which is geologically active, is approximately in the direction from which the lights are most frequently observed. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Alternative explanations that have been proposed include bioluminescence from desert organisms. No known desert organisms produce the sustained, high-intensity light required. Ball lightning is extremely rare and typically lasts only seconds, while Marfa lights persist for extended periods. Combustion of marsh gases. There are no marshes in the Chihuahuan desert. And unexplained atmospheric plasma phenomena related to the region's frequent thunderstorms and high-altitude lightning. Each proposed explanation accounts for some observed characteristics, but fails to account for others, leaving the mystery genuinely unresolved. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the atmospheric refraction theory is the most widely cited skeptical explanation. The Marfa Lights are refractions and reflections of distant light sources, car headlights, ranch lights, campfires, produced by thermal layering in the desert atmosphere. The temperature inversions that form in the Chihuahuan desert on calm nights can bend light around the curvature of the Earth, making distant sources visible from impossible angles and causing them to appear to hover, move, and change color. This theory is accepted by many atmospheric scientists as the correct explanation for most Marfa Lights reports. Critics note it doesn't account for pre-automobile sightings or for behaviors like splitting and merging. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the piezoelectric/tectonic stress theory holds that the Marfa Lights are a manifestation of electrical discharges produced by tectonic stress on the geological faults of the Trans-Pecos region. When crystalline rock, particularly quartz-bearing formations, is subjected to stress, it generates electrical charge through the piezoelectric effect. Under high enough stress, this can produce visible light discharges, earthquake lights, that hover near the ground, move, and produce the complex behaviors observed at Marfa. This theory has the advantage of explaining the light's long history. Geological activity precedes humans, and their geographic specificity correlated with fault locations. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the plasma vortex theory, associated with researchers working on anomalous atmospheric phenomena, proposes that the Marfa Lights are sustained plasma formations, ionized gas structures, that form under specific atmospheric and geomagnetic conditions and can persist for extended periods in ways that conventional ball lightning cannot. These plasma vortices would have the capacity to generate light, move purposefully, following electromagnetic field lines, split and merge, and respond to geomagnetic variations in ways that would make them appear almost alive to observers. This theory is consistent with James Bunnell's observation of correlations between the lights and atmospheric electric field strength. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes James Bunnell's 15-year photographic study, conducted from 2000-2015 with synchronized cameras placed at multiple locations around the viewing area, provides the most systematic scientific data on the Marfa Lights. Bunnell documented 37 mystery light events that could not be explained by headlights or other known sources. His data showed that mystery lights correlated with specific meteorological conditions, high atmospheric electrical field, low humidity, and that they appeared most frequently in specific geographic sectors, suggesting a fixed source area near the Chinati Mountains. His measurements of light intensity indicated light sources brighter than vehicle headlights at the relevant distances. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented historical accounts from before the automobile era, 1880s, 1900s, constitute indirect but significant evidence against the headlight refraction explanation. The consistency of early accounts with modern descriptions, lights that hover, move, split, merge, and appear orange, yellow, or white, suggests the phenomenon being observed today is the same one observed by 19th century ranchers before the mechanisms proposed in T. Refraction theory, cars, highways existed. The Apache oral tradition of the lights being present always further suggests a phenomenon that predates European settlement of the area entirely. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the geographic specificity of the Marfa Lights, their tendency to appear in the same direction and at roughly similar apparent distances when observed from the viewing area, provides evidence that they originate from a specific location or area rather than being randomly distributed atmospheric effects. This geographic consistency is more consistent with a local physical source, geological, electromagnetic, or biological, than with widely distributed atmospheric refraction of distant sources. Multiple independent observers at different viewing locations have provided triangulation data suggesting the lights originate in the area of the Chinati Mountains near the Presidio County-Brewster County border. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years. Now, we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Marfa Lights remain an active area of both scientific research and popular interest. The Mitchell Flat area, where the lights are most frequently observed, is privately owned ranching land, which limits systematic scientific access to the most productive viewing areas. The town of Marfa, which has also become a significant contemporary art destination, it is home to the Chinati Foundation, and the work of minimalist artist Donald Judd incorporates the lights as a central element of its cultural identity. The annual Marfa Lights Festival draws thousands of visitors who combine interest in the lights with the town's arts events. Recent research has applied new measurement technologies to the phenomenon, including Doppler radar and high-sensitivity spectrographic cameras that can identify the chemical composition of light sources. A 2023 atmospheric science study used modern spectroscopy to analyze light from potential sources at relevant distances, and found that the spectral profiles of some Marfa Lights observations were inconsistent with vehicle headlights, but consistent with combustion of organic materials, though the nature of the combustion source in an area with no obvious fuel was not identified. The mystery persists, producing new data with each study but not a definitive resolution. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Marfa Lights, Texas's unexplained dancing lights that have been witnessed for over 150 years. From the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Marfa Lights ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle, it is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please help us reach more people. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary. If you are watching on Facebook, tap the follow button on our page to stay connected. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.